And we're live. Hey, everybody. What's going on? It's me, Rose Kaz. Today, we are talking about money, honey. We are doing like these little teaser episodes of the podcast, Money, Sex, and Politics, with some pretty awesome business baddies, if you ask me. I think they're rad. Today, I'm joined by Angela Buccellato. It's like gelato, but maybe hotter. Eh?
Ooh.
Ooh, you like season 3, right? LBI Digital Podcast Money, Sex, and Politics. We get into this episode talking about money. Specifically, we're talking with Angela about this really interesting idea about fractional roles, hiring companies that are hiring for fractional roles in this economy. Like today is April 9th, 2025. Is any company even hiring right now? And in those types of roles in that capacity, is that actually going to help us as women like close the wage gap? That's my question for Angela today. Angela comes to us from the Resume Rescue, or she actually really is rescuing the resume. The Resume Rescue was born when Angela and her team came up with this goal to really support anybody who's trying to enter the job market or re-enter. If you're fresh out of college, maybe you're a veteran looking for your next step, is what Resume Rescue is about. And I'm really curious, again, like this job market today, like already listened to the numbers this morning from Marketplace. I was like, oh, wow. And interestingly enough, we'll get into it in a minute, but y'all, like I was at the startup event yesterday when people were talking about like investment money and like their seed funding and this and, their side hustle. And I'm like, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but like y'all are listening to the economy, right? Like you're paying attention to the news, right? The stock market, which is different than the economy, but like we are in a moment. Again, April 9th, 2025. We're talking about money. Angela, you work specifically in the job market. You help people get jobs by refining their resume. You're looking out there. You've been a recruiter. You worked for years in a specific sector recruiting, and now you're more of like a generalist recruiter-ish in the way that you're shaping people's resumes to get jobs. Welcome to the show. How's life? How's the rescuing of the resumes going?
It's going. I've been in recruiting. That actually was my internship in college. So quite literally my entire career before my air quote big girl career started. So this has been, especially 2024 where we had so many clients that I was just a broken record of just like, you're doing everything right. I would be scamming you if I told you you needed me for your resume. I mean, people with great resumes following up on LinkedIn and things like that. But I will say now, April 9, 2025, a lot better than summer Q3, Q4 2024. But what's happening now is you have to work your booty off to get it. I mean, we say networking, but it's really go through your contact list, like the old school Italian, like, who do you know? I got someone for you. Like, it's so much like that of what the job market was 15, 20 years ago. And you have to have a great resume. You need to have a LinkedIn presence. From my clients I've worked with and data we stay up on, they're requiring you to put your LinkedIn profile in applications now more than ever. So even I was kind of shocked to hear that of like, usually it's an optional thing, but people are coming to us like, oh, I need a LinkedIn profile. I don't know what to do. And I think it's navigating what's best for you and your family. I'm saying this to everyone. You need to get a job. If you have the energy, if you need a job that's quick cash, like I'm a server and bartender was my back end. I still help run my family's business. That's easy. It's not easy cash because you work your booty off for it, but you need to do what's best for you and your situation. And if that is having multiple streams of income, I feel like that's the way to go and where most people are right now.
Hold on, let me just get this right. So what you're saying is we just have to work harder. And
It's
then harder, and then we
yeah.
maybe could get a job. No, which is like same, right? It's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Ugh,
Let me just calibrate.
Right.
And let me just pause for a second because I need to give shout out to the way and the who of how I connected to Angela, because Brenda Williams is to me like all of my business coaching, all of my evolution of business has come from Brenda or women like Brenda, and that's how I met Angela. And the reason I don't want to just give Brenda her flowers because she educates and advocates for really different types of business and leadership, but also as a Black woman, she's talking about like advocating for ourselves in these roles and spaces and places, not just in the job market, right? Like sometimes we're caregivers at home. I know she's taking care of her family right now, as well as being a leader in business. But this idea of us having to like work harder and kind of still get the same little crumbs. I'm curious what you're seeing, like not just from the like getting in there for getting the interview, because that's its own challenge, right?
Right.
But let's say in a hypothetical situation, hypothetically, we've manifested the fucking interview. Okay, whatever. Like, however it happens, maybe you get the interview. Okay, you hustle your ass off, you get the interview. Okay, let's say you get the job. Okay, great, right? And then like from the standpoint of like people advocating for themselves to not be on the burnout cycle, like have you seen more roles of like a fractional component, right? Versus like, okay, I got the job and they've got me in here 40 hours, 60 hours a week, or like they can only afford this amount of work. Like what I guess what I'm saying is like, do you help people strategize beyond getting into the interview and sort of being able to advocate for that bag that they're trying to get the job for in the first place, you know?
Absolutely. So I take everything based on data, based on numbers, based on what we're seeing in the market, based on where we live, because that takes into account. I'm in Metro Detroit myself, where I'm not in a super, super huge high cost of living, but I'm going to be a different salary than someone that's in San Francisco, New York City, Austin, Texas, some of those higher areas. So when you're looking at this from the perspective, I think where people kind of have the connotation of I can't do it, or especially women saying, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I'm just happy to have a job. We're in 2025. They should be honored to have you as a candidate, and as a person, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people operate from a place of scarcity, which I get it. Like you got bills to pay, you got your own mouths to feed, but sitting down and taking the time to say, oh, well, I'm willing to take a $10,000 pay cut if it means I have work. Well, no, you're losing money in the long run. If it's a longer commute, if you're not getting benefits. I mean, people just aren't sitting down and taking the time to do that. And women, especially, we have this hard time of, oh, well, just what is it? It's like more, we're raised to be the nurturing type, the not to ruffle feathers, sit down, shut up types. And I think that's one of the reasons you and I bonded, because we're both these fiery individuals of just like, screw this, let's make it happen. So I think a lot of people too, when we do coaching or we do a strategic plan, I just told a woman the other day, I'm like, we'll just call her Mary. Go, Mary. I mean this in the least disrespectful way. How the hell are you surviving on this salary? You have 15 years of experience and you're making, I think she's making $55,000 a year with a master's degree and all 15 years of experience, like insanity. And I do this reverse psychology with clients where I pull up jobs. I redact the salary. And I'm like, okay, what percentage of a fit are you for this job? She's like, oh, I'm 100% fit. It was a salary of $115,000. I go, point made. She's like, okay, you're right. And it's like, if you do the math from a business owner perspective, it's pocket change. It's a lot of money to pay someone, but when these businesses are making millions upon millions of dollars, you can like get the money you need. Or if you operate on a fractional level, like we're talking about, sometimes they'll pay you a lot of money to work a contract. And I had a friend that made his salary in 3 months for the whole year because it was just a project they needed.
Which I think can be from the like nuts and bolts, dollars and cents of, oh, I can stack a couple contracts like this. It could be very, very lucrative. But also I think it's really important to say, as somebody who's been both a contractor and had contractors on my team, who has also been an employee and had employers on my team, there's a very important distinction. Sorry, this is like the type A in my brain going like, that is fucking awesome. And one has to account for the fact if you are straight up contracting, right? Like if you're a fractional role, you are sending, let's say you're on a 10K a month fractional CTO, right? You're doing technical chief technical officer kind of stuff, but only in like chunks. You would otherwise be on a salary from that company and they would be paying your employment tax, et cetera, and all this stuff. So you as a contractor have to like, you gotta get an accountant. You gotta get someone who's like gonna make sure that unless you just want to go like ask the robots, but like don't put the house any of that shit because it's not really fact checked. quite yet
Right.
in the right way. But that's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, I think that can be really a good way for just anyone to level up. But I also want to point out that you said he was able to make his salary in 3 months. And I wonder, right? People be like, oh, she's talking gender again. I gotta no, listen. But this is fucking important. He was able to do that because he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do that. If more women, if we were like, fuck it, I'm gonna do that. And to another point, yesterday morning, I was in this amazing conversation around the table. I'm in this peer group with this incredible group in Portland, Oregon called Accelerate Women. If you're in Portland and you don't know about these women, please check them out. They have tons of services, coaches, people who are supporting women in business, whether you're working individually as a business owner or if you work inside someone else's business. Anyways, we're sitting around the table and we're like, well, shit, each of us realized that we were at this point where like talking about your client, Mary, right? Like you ran through all the things, 115K lady, you were making 55K. Like, come on now. Come on. The dollars the math is not mathing, right? And so if Mary and Angela and Rose and Brahenda and Luisa and, if every single woman was like, hold the fuck on a second. Hold on. And each negotiating time, whether it's with the client or with the potential employer, we're like, nope, I'm not doing, here's the bar. Like you're telling me the bar is here. And I know that cannot be true, right? There has to be this sort of like groundswell of consideration in working. And I don't just mean for the women. I mean for anybody who's like, I guess I'll just take this like quick job and bring down my value. It's just that historically women, and particularly the darker our skin, the less, respect and money we get. That's really fucking problematic from changing the scope of like work and the pay level, right? And so going back to the example of Mary, we'll call her Mary. When you were like, cool, so 115K, was she like, oh my God, like what was the next revelation for her and what was the activation with that consideration?
Well, it was just being shell shocked from it because she really didn't think this is what she was worth. And there's so many factors in your life too of having a bad boss. And I'll share a little on my story, try to make it keep short and sweet of like why I'm so passionate about this money topic. But she was just shell shocked and she just like needed a few minutes. And then I put life coach because I do have 2 psychology degrees, funny enough. So I'm basically a therapist,
Oh.
I put the psychology hat on of we're so hard on ourselves, especially as women. And I took this from somewhere and I wish I remembered where, but it might've been a meme or something. And it was like that same negative self-talk, you can't do this, you can't do this. Would you tell that to your best woman in your life, your best friend, your mother, your daughter, your grandmother, whoever? And the answer is like, oh, fuck no, I wouldn't. Like, absolutely, I would not. So even talking to that woman, she has a little girl at home. Has a little girl. And I said, would you say that same thing to your daughter? She's like, absolutely not. She can rule the world. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay, well, don't we want to be, and I don't have kids. I'm not giving parenting advice, but it's like everyone around you sees how you are, whether you show up on LinkedIn, you show up in these different lights, and why not ask for it? And you should take up space. I mean, I worked at a job. Sorry, we're going to segue into a story here, but
right.
I graduated from Penn State University. I did all the things. I did the leadership thing. I got a good job out of college. I went to a Big Ten school. I checked all the boxes. I mean, I like, oh, okay, I'm going to get this great job. I'm going to get paid all this money. I have this 4-year degree, blah, 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 blah. Well, I make $30,000 out of school. And this
What year was this?
2016.
Okay.
So 2016, I'm making $30,000 out of school. And my commission percentage, because I worked as a recruiter, ready? No one ever guesses this, 0.33%. I wasn't even worth 1% commission.
0.33.
0.33.
The zero's here, the point is here. Okay.
Yep. Got to move the point. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So they tell me like, get in, show us you're worth getting a raise. And you're not taught in college or even high school how to negotiate. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. You're going to get rewarded for good work. I've played sports my whole life. I'm competitive as heck. Like, I bet. So I go in, I'm number 1 in the company. I make them, and it's a small staffing agency. I make them $500,000 in profit. So my 1 year comes up. I'm like, hey, I want a raise. what are we looking at? Where's my leadership potential? Because I'm 21, 22 at the time and 23, whatever I was. And they're like, yeah, of course, of course. So their commission, they bumped me to 32.5 or 35,000. It was like an 18% raise because I was making such low money. And I'm like, I was privileged that I was living at home and not having that many bills to pay, except insurance, car payment, whatever. Well, then this other job falls in my lap off of LinkedIn, which is why you should be active on LinkedIn. And
Boom.
I had the day already off. My friend was getting married, and their culture, you get married on Sunday. So I had that Monday off. I interviewed, got this job, 45K, 10% commission. No brainer. So I go to quit
10%.
this job.
Hold on. We went from 0.33 to 10% as
Yep,
the
Yep.
Okay. Just
base
doing the math
salary.
here.
And base salary from 32,500 to 45,000.
45, which is still, by the way, crazy low. You're still like
crazy
in
low.
your early
Yes.
20s, but okay, we're segueing. We're moving it.
Yes, we're moving it. I was, lucky. I was just saving money like crazy because I was living at home still. So I do that. I tell like my work best friend, we get drinks, and I'm like, hey, I got to tell you, I'm leaving. And he's like, I thought we were celebrating, because he knew I was going to ask for a raise. So he's like, well, I got to know what they offer you. And I tell him, and he spits out his beer like out of a movie. And he says, don't ask me what I make. And I'm like, well, you got to tell me now. He was making $18,000 more than me in his base, 18 grand base. And his commission percentage, he was almost at 20% commission. And he started off that much higher than me. And my numbers were almost double the same year he started. So
his commission was 20%. Yours was 0.33.
He started at 10% when he got offered the job.
Started
at 10%.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, oh, well, screw this. I'm quitting. So the story gets better. So the president of that company, he was so condescending. I mean, I was the only woman on the recruiting team, me and one other woman, but she had a baby and she was kind of like part-time, was on maternity leave. So I was the only woman, and it was like a 1980s out of office space, like recruiters and sales on one side and the gray, ugly like boxes and HR and marketing on the right. And it was like, and all the executives had offices. Like it was, I'm going to get PTSD talking about it.
Well, don't go too crazy. Don't go too far down the line, like, because you elevated up.
Right. Yes. But it's just crazy. And I got told when I was quitting, he's gaslighting me, degrades me for 2 hours, says I'm going to go nowhere in my life. Why am I ever going to quit? What a joke I am. And just degrades me for 2 hours, because you're also never told how to quit a job. So right. Old white man. And I'm like, how do you have 2 daughters? I don't understand. But this man sitting here telling 22, 23-year-old me, and I'm like, don't cry, Angela. Don't cry. Like, you're going to win this battle. And then he sends out a nasty, because I'm like, where am I going to go in leadership? Give me a path and I'll stay. You can't give me a path. You're all old white men in leadership, and you will, excuse me for being vulgar, like until you all die, there's nothing in leadership.
Well, also just straight up the like initial hiring commission of almost full 9% more, and insanely different difference in the salary between you and that gentleman. Like this is that just the mathing. This is what I've been trying to work on, is like looking at the numbers, like, cause I'm like you, I'm like, excuse me, sir, like I'm going to have a conversation about this, because you hired me because I have some sort of skills, and that I'm working for you. You want me to work for you. Right. But like, I'm working on it. Thank you, therapy. But like the conversations with this type of leadership, old and wide, or there's all sorts of quippy ways to say this, but like the operating system of those gentlemen aren't such that it computes in a way that we are actually speaking the same language, which is just the most annoying fucking shit to me ever, because like I'm using English words, right? You're using English words, sir, but it doesn't compute. So I think about this then like, okay, let's just look at the math of it, right? But it's, again, like the operating system doesn't seem to have a bother that like this gentleman came in, the younger guy came in at like a whole 9% less commission and a good $10,000-$15,000 more base salary. Like what in the actual hell, right? And so I wonder from that standpoint, because that sounds like that like really teed you up to be like, oh, because we can sit over here and we can counsel or consult or, advocate for both ourselves individually, but also for our clients by reading books, by going through MBAs, by going through different programs. But unless you have that fucking experience where you're just like, oh, hell no, dude, hold my purse. Because like, I know like when we first connected, like that fire inside where it's just like, you just minimize me to just be like this much of a person. And I was about to give you like all of my fucking superpowers. And now you get nuns, you get zeros, like amounts. So you totally quit that job. You take the next one. And then how long is it between the like, hold my purse, oh my guy, until you're like over here being like, this is how we do it?
So started being fiery. I feel like my full personality developed in the early 20s, which nobody tells you about. So, and then we moved into technical recruiting. Awesome job. Super, like if you've ever seen Mad Men, it's very old school. How many phone calls can you make? Like, I feel like I went back to the 60s when I worked there, and it was all numbers driven.
1960s or 1860s? Because I'm like right about now, which is not unclear.
We just never know. No,
unclear, but like what the hell's
1960s? Yes, like the call as many people, get the numbers up, all that crap. So I go in, I'm working nights, weekends, holidays. I remember having food poisoning and they're like, yeah, well, you have your computer at home, like go schedule this interview for this client. And I literally had my computer in the bathroom with me as I'm, source things coming out of me. And I was like, oh yeah, I have to work. So I drilled myself into the ground working. My partner at the time was like, I love you. You need to find another job. I was crying on the way to work. I was crying on the way home. I just had the Sunday scaries just never went away. And I'm like, this isn't it. My boss was terrible. I mean, and it was hard because when you work with other employees, you like we go get drinks, we go to happy hour, we hung out, we went to concerts, and we were all very tight knit. It was hard. It's like, well, I don't want to leave my little family of friends here, but I go to Italy. I get put on a PIP, which is a performance plan. For those of you that don't know, day before I go to Italy, I'm going to Italy for 2 weeks. They're like, hey, don't worry about your numbers. You'll get them up. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to be in another country for 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm not worried about it because you're supposed to make them a certain amount of money, certain percentages, blah, blah, blah. So I go to Italy. I have my little eat, pray, love. Like, why am I stressing about a stupid corporate job when I'm drinking beautiful wine from the vineyard I just smashed the grapes in and beautiful, like, what a way of life. Yeah. I come back, get into the office. Boss walks right past me, calls me into his office. I get fired. Let go. This isn't me, Angela. This is, corporate. And he never had our back. So it was always corporate's fault. Like he never, as a leader, I don't know how you don't have your employees back even now. So like, those are my people. Don't mess with them. But I don't recommend doing this, but I was like, do you want a good story to tell? Or do you want to let this man that's ruined your life the last 2.5 years do this? So told him exactly how I felt. I went out with a bang. I still talk to my other boss actually. And I just said like, what a waste this is. So to me, the scary thing happened because I had the resume rescue in 2017 and I was like, well, this will never be my full-time job. That's a joke. And the scariest thing happened. I got fired. And I'm like, okay, well, I look at me, I'm still alive and I survived that. So why not take up space and why not do this?
I mean, there you go. Right there. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? Right? Like, I feel like this both from a standpoint of like what you do with resume rescue and what the aim for business for good is, building business for good. What we're doing is similarly going, you know what? Like I've already in my career for the last 10, 15 years been fuck it. I'm not going to make this smaller.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Let's go here. Consistently told like, no, sit down, quiet. Like, please stop. Not even please, like this sort of lack. You said, like, how are you a leader in this way? I was actually fired out of the blue. The rare time this outside cat went back inside because I was just like, the stars were aligning and everything, and startup life is fucking bananas. But like being fired in a way that is so like, I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Right? Like, I guess most people feel a way when they get fired, but I've done a lot of work in the last 6 months to go, if I was really wrong, then I could own it by now. And at this point, it's like all that fuel of bullshit and bad leadership actually takes my actual superpowers and is like, great. We're not playing small anymore, right? And I really appreciate that you're like, I don't recommend doing this, but I went out with the bang. And the thing is, Angela, and this is why I love you, and this is why I thank you again, Barhenda, for connecting me to women like Angela and Tamara, who I spoke with last week. We were connected, Barhenda, and this net of women across the country and through LBI Digital, my startup, across the globe, that we don't have to fucking stay quiet. Okay. Like our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our grannies, like all of the women that were not quiet before us, it was scarier for them to not be quiet. And it might be scary. Like you might be an introvert being like, Rose, you're always so like, you're so fun to watch. You're just so, you talk with your hand, like find little ways to advocate for yourself that are bigger every day, because it is going to be that much more important, not just in like landing the right job or getting out of this shitty like work environment. Angela, when you were saying like, oh, these are my people, like I got my crew, right? Like there's something that comes along with having community, even if it's toxic, where we feel like we got to stick around. And like, of course, if you're, relying on that community to pay your bills and feed your family and shit like that. But like back to what I was saying around the table with the Accelerate Women yesterday, is we're all looking at each other going like, well, shit, I really want to get paid. Like I want to be making really good money. And this one woman, she said at the top of the conversation, she's like, I just really don't give a fuck about any like of my other offers. I'm just going in on the like big ticket because I'm just sick of not making the right money for me. Right. And whatever the right money is for her, she's got a kid, she's got a life. And I really appreciated how candid she was with that. Right. But also like nobody is going to like the resume rescue is here to be like holding the light to you as an applicant. Business for Good is here to be like, shout out, like, we're not going to just sit down and take this shit anymore. But like, nobody's going to do that for anybody. Like we're here to cheer you. We're hype girls essentially for this stuff.
Hell yeah.
But like each one of us, whether introverted or extrovert, spicier, like a little more, I don't want to say vanilla. Vanilla can be a very delightful spice.
Vanilla
but like
my favorite flavor. So
it's delicious. That bean, hello. It's like it's very dynamic.
Magic.
Yeah, rap. But you know what I'm saying is like some people will be like, well, I could never. It's like, I bet you could just a little bit.
Well, and I think I feel this way and feel free to disagree with me, but I think it's our role as more extroverted women or to pull up the voices of others who need to be pulled out of situations. Or, I've had the abusive relationships. I've had the I'm not going to go anywhere in my life. I've had got diagnosed with ADHD, depression, and anxiety 4 years ago. And my whole life changed. And I'm like, who am I as a person? The thing is, we all go through our own situations, and you read what you have online with a grain of salt, or it's like, I'm obsessed with LinkedIn because I have tailored news feeds on everything where it's like women uplifting women or just like badass people as a whole. That I think that's our job. I think it's our job. And I think if you are listening to this and you're more introverted there, like lean into those extroverted friends or lean into those people that are out there. My joke with my friends are like, Angela, you can literally make friends with the wall. Like, I went to the bathroom for 2 seconds. How'd you get the person next to you whole life story? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes. But I'm so lucky to do this work because you and I would have never met. And I don't know, I hope, I pray maybe in one lifetime we would have, but the amount of friends I have and the women, men, human beings that I've connected with because of the business, I would have never done that. And now being engrossed in this community here in Metro Detroit of small business owners or just like all the opportunities, and people give a shit about you. The amount of clients I've had that are people I haven't talked to since high school, or we weren't even like really friends. You just like run in different circles. I grew up in a giant area. Like I had 400 kids in my graduating class. But people see what you're doing and they're like, I'm so proud of you. I just had my old neighbor I used to babysit for message me and like, hey, I think we should work together, which is funny. I used to babysit her kids, but people are watching and you should put yourself out there. How many people are doing this with a quarter of the empathy leadership that you have? Like, just do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Totally. And that's back to like, if we play small, we live small, right? And leaning into relationships with people like myself, like Angela, like Barhenda Williams, like Tamara Seeley, like we are the big mouths out here. We are the ones with the big microphones. No pun intended. But also, and so like have us advocate with you, right? And have those tables, those conversations. And what's beautiful about Detroit that while I do kind of there's a little bit of missing the Midwest just from the standpoint of being able to like zip over to Detroit or zip over to New York or even just zip down
Chicago.
to yeah. I do not miss the winters, but what's super exciting, I know Brahenda's got the Brahenda Williams show is coming up. She's doing a live studio audience taping, and hopefully Angela, you'll be able to make it so you can tell me like I can live through you.
I'll FaceTime you. Just be
okay. Okay. Yeah. We'll be those like gals that are like cheering her on. Like, oh my God, what are they doing over there? We're like, yay! But from that standpoint, right, is like I want to quote this author I heard speak in Portland last month, Sherry Dunn. She wrote this book called Qualified, and she said to a room full of almost 500 women with the Portland Business Journal to go where it's warm, right? Yeah, right? And like Brahenda does this, Angela, you do this. I've been told I do this. This is my goal, is what I do, is to make space and place feel good, to like allow for people in my presence to feel like they're seen. Because I know the value of being seen and being appreciated, getting paid my worth, right? And so taking the ounce of like, I feel about this big and be like, I'm going to feel this big. Okay. I'm going to feel bigger. And then just like owning that, right? Because that right there is the answer to, that's what I was trying to say yesterday in the group with Accelerate. I was like, but if we collectively all take up more space, then there's the bottom line can no longer stay here. And that's not one thing that like Angela is going to be able to do, or Rose is I can't do that by myself. But if we all consistently do it, then that has to be the bar. Like, it's just like, that's it, yo. Like that is the new standard. I like to call it the gold standard, like our shared humanity, because like we fucking matter. The new gold standard, not like the old one, you know, although copper has been fluctuating, but I think it's back down because, you know, China. But anyways, that's just me paying attention to the morning numbers, y'all, you know.
And I want to make one more comment on that too, is I think especially as women, we feel like we don't want to bother people, or we don't want them to go out of their way for us, even though we would do that for them. But I think what was pivotal early in my career is I had support. I had a badass mentor at my internship who just like didn't take shit from no one. She was incredible. We worked side by side. Full circle, she just reached out to me about hiring, so that was kind of fun. But there also were men that were seated, that had the seat at the table, that made room for me, or just said like, nope, we're going to stop that bad talk. It just like instilled that confidence. And for the time, I mean, you do your situations and hone into those people. And I always say like, check your energy with anyone, with work, with people, with partners. I mean, if you feel drained once you leave someone and you're like, oh my God, that was the worst, probably not someone you want to hone into. But the complete stranger I met over the internet who's hyping me up and giving me all these clients, like, yeah, that's someone I want to spend my time and energy with. So ask for help, like do the thing. It's okay. That was the biggest like hurdle I had to jump through, is like, tell people you're having a bad day, or tell people this, and you will be brought closer together.
Thank you for saying that, Angela, because the power of mentorship, sponsorship, by the way, right? Because sometimes there's the connection you can have with a mentor where you got to be like, listen, here's my hurdle, right? And I don't have the time or the energetics to pay a full-on coach, but if I could buy you a coffee real quick and you could just say like, you know, when 10 years ago when you were in that place, kind of thing. Different than hiring an actual, you know, service provider for XYZ to work through a bigger problem. But mentors, like, I mean, I will forever be a mentee, and I am also a mentor. And that is such a beautiful full circle experience for me as both a constant student of life and a leader, right? But also sponsors, right? So like how many times have I said Brahenda? Like, not just because like I love her to death, but like any room I'm in that I could talk about her and what she's doing is like my joy and privilege, so people can know about her, right? And for example, recently I mentioned that firing that I had the joy of going through.
All the cool kids have been fired, all of them,
right? Like, hey,
yes.
I'm an outside cat. It's proven. It's tried, tested, and proven. Like, I just, you know, meow.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that like none of my mentors could do this one. I mean, they could do it, but what I needed in that moment over the course of like resurfacing, right? Like I felt quite small, is I needed people to be my sponsors, to be in rooms that either if my name got brought up in a way that wasn't favorable, or if something that was being talked about, I came to mind in a favorable way, to advocate for me, right? So these are basically, this is your crew. These are people who have your back, right? Sponsors. And to kind of piggyback on something you said at the very beginning, as we kind of land this plane, Angela, you mentioned how important having a LinkedIn presence is, right? And you can think about sponsors in the real world as people who, like I just said, like are in rooms being like, you know who you need to talk to? Fucking Angela. I can say it.
You said it right the first time.
It's
Yeah,
like
there you go.
gelato, but hotter.
Yes.
Sorry. My coffee is finally getting into the actual DNA of my body. Yes. Maybe a little too much espresso this morning. Anyways, sponsors are also the people who repost your comment or your posts on LinkedIn. They're the people that are like 100% so excited for you. They're people who are cheering you on both virtually and IRL. So make those connections, make them on LinkedIn. In fact, I'm going to put Angela's LinkedIn right here. In case you don't know, you should click on over to her profile as well. And maybe as we land the plane here, Angela, can you give us just like maybe one or two top hints or tricks on like making that LinkedIn page like really pop?
Great question. I would say you don't have to treat LinkedIn like a stuffy business platform that everyone thinks it is. Like if you're already active on like Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever, you could repurpose the same content. But what I would say is have someone that doesn't know you do an audit of your profile, or what's that first impression, because you have to think of it as the first impression someone has of you as if they were shaking your hand in person. So you need to have a clear profile picture. You need to explain what you do. I should know within the first few seconds I open your profile, what do you do for a living? So that headline of saying, hey, I'm a career therapist, I do career coaching, I'm a resume writer, LinkedIn expert, things like the host of my own podcast. So that headline is more important than you think, and play on LinkedIn. I mean, I know this is crazy to tell you that to play on social media, but whether you're looking for a job, whether you have your own business, whether you're looking for fractional work, LinkedIn's where the money's at. All of my paid speaking engagements have all come inbound to me from LinkedIn. So use it. Yes.
Boom. Yeah. And seriously, before we went live, I was like, hey, you know, there's a couple things floating around on the Meta profile and the Meta channels, right? Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp is also owned by Meta, right? So these are places and spaces that have a different sort of cadence than LinkedIn. It's owned by a separate company. I think LinkedIn is now owned by Microsoft. Yep. Different sort of bot system. I don't know who's more puritanical, but all I know is that like when I go on Instagram and I say words like sex, the robots have a problem about it. LinkedIn, not so much. Not that I'm talking about sex on LinkedIn. Don't freak out. I'm just talking about, you know, things like the gender gap. And it's important that those things don't get all lumped like on the Meta platforms into, say, like a bucket of like the XXX versus like, oh no, we're just talking about getting paid the same, you know, not like 0.33% commish, like 10 or 20% commish.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Angela, as always, it is an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I love the fiery Italian. My Sicilian soul feels seen. And I hope you can make it to that first taping for B. I know I'll have to catch it on the replay either way, but like, I know your spirit will bring our spirit together up the spicy. And again, just thanks for doing the work you do. And thanks for showing up so bold and being just downright fucking honest. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for holding space to have badasses on here and for the good people to know things. So thank you.
That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. All right, everybody. Well, this has been the, as I said, amuse bouche, the beginning of season 3 for the podcast Money, Sex, and Politics. Today we talked about money. Last week we talked about politics. Before that, you can guess we talked about sex, and we're going to wash, rinse, repeat. Maybe we'll wash, but we'll definitely redo the conversations every week going forward. And then you can catch the full episode I will release April 24th is going to be, we did a live stream last April 24th. It took me a whole year to edit this blessed podcast up because midway through this live streaming, we had it all set up. We had mics, everything was like really tight, and your girl comes from a production background, so I was very OCD about it. And then in the middle, there was some sort of fire alarm or something. So like nobody had to leave the building. Like it was just like meow, meow, meow. And I went through 3 different, I won't bore you with the long story, 3 different editors, also a couple robots, couldn't get that God bless sound. Your type A girl got it out. And so we're going to drop that live recording back from season 2 officially kicks us off with the full episode. And it's Eleanor O'Brien. I just want y'all to check these people out real quick if you get a chance. Eleanor O'Brien, she has a show called Plan V. You can do the math, what you might think that's about. She's a one-woman show, one of the funniest people I have ever met in my life. Gloria Coleman, Exit Bliss. She's a systems operations lady who just gets your shit together and in order. Like she is, plus she has purple hair and she's just like, she's a queen. And then KJ was running for city council at the time. I think now she's back on doing a bunch of her web and SEO stuff. But anyways, that podcast is going to drop on the 24th of April. So make sure that you're following us on all the places, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, although Instagram probably going to kick me off soon because I go on there and just get surly in the morning. And as I said one more time, I'm going to pop this onto our little boop. Angela, the resume rescue queen. Make sure to follow her on the LinkedIn as well, and go to her website because she's got a lot of good resources and some free things too. So you can the more you know, boss up. Angela, ciao.
Thanks, Rose.